Welcome back to my channel, Scale Model Kit Review Studio. I'm super excited to bring you another installment of the DeAgostini FanHome Build the 1966 Batmobile. I am currently working on pack number 5, stages 15 through 20, or phases 15 through 20. Now, if you haven't done so already, head over to FanHome and subscribe to this car today. Get it while you can. I put a direct link in the description below. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review Studio, and welcome back to another installment of the DeAgostini FanHome Build the Batmobile from the classic 1966 TV series. I just received shipment number 5, or pack number 5, and this includes 6 more stages to build, stages 15 through 20. Now I will take you through all 6 of those stages in this video. So before we begin, I'll go ahead and show you what also came in the package, which are the parts. So let's look at the parts here first. A very large box arrived, and this is stage 15. And that's the chassis, the front part of the chassis. Stage 16, some cross members for the chassis. Stage 17, some support arms for the chassis. Stage 18, the other support arms for the chassis. Stage 19, anti-sway bars and some mounts. Stage 20, some upper support arms and the shock assembly. Let's get started with stage 15. Stage 15 magazine. I'll go ahead and take you through this very quickly as I have a lot to show you in this video. TV show, episode guide here, season 1, episode 15, The Joker Goes to School. Next is the great Batman comics, The Black Mirror from 2011. Batman Year by Year, this is Batman 52. Then we have our step-by-step building guide, the car parts here. So for example here they're showing us the front chassis, fuel line, and screwdriver we received. Step by step, a few steps there, the result, and there you go. So let me go ahead and give you a close-up of the step-by-step guide. Remember, you can only get this from FanHome currently, and don't forget to head over there to subscribe to this today. It's not going to be there forever, and jump on it while you can. It's going to be a fantastic car. This classic Batmobile in 1/8 scale will definitely be a standout against the other cars that are out there. Now, this is the step-by-step guide. You can also download this off their website. If you are a current subscriber, you just go to their page, FanHome page, and you can download each and every episode guide right there off the app. And there you go. There you go. I'm going to grab our fuel line. We're going to install that on the fuel filter. I'm going to give us a little tip here on how to install that line. Then we're going to get the chassis ready to go. We have a shipping rod that we got to remove. And that's all we do. So I'll go ahead and get the parts and I'll be right back. Stage 15 part here, and this is why the box was so large. We received this very large front end of the chassis. Let's get a closer look. And here's our chassis. Of course, it's made of metal. Has a matte black finish to it. Very nice. And the screwdriver we received, probably like a medium-sized type screwdriver there. And our fuel line. Now to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and install the fuel line on the fuel filter down here. But this is the engine that we assembled in the previous pack. And I hope you watched my video, because I did give you some very nice tips on assembling this, especially the crankshaft pulleys and such. You definitely want to watch my previous video for that before you move on ahead in this build. But this is fantastic, I think. The original engine, which this represents, was really never shown in the TV show because it's supposed to be a jet engine that powers this and not a normally, gasoline aspirated engine. But this is just like the original engine that Barris had in the car when he built the Batmobile. I've seen painted engines, photographs of painted engines, and those are from the reproductions that are out there. There's several reproductions of the Batmobile, and all those engines have been painted. But as you can see here, it has the factory color on the block and the oil sump on the bottom of the engine, and of course the intake manifold on top are the original factory colors. So there you go. Let's go ahead and install that fuel line. Fuel line just inserts on that tab right there. Just like that. And that's how that looks. And I went ahead and taped up both fuel lines out of the way because I know we're going to be mounting this on the chassis. These are the motor mounts right here on each side, and I don't want those lines in the way. Now I'll go ahead and bring over the chassis. And just need to remove this bar that's on the chassis here. There we go. And that's all I do with stage 15. Let's head over and do stage 16. And here's the magazine for stage 16. The TV show, Season 1, Episode 16. He meets his match, the Grizzly Ghoul. The Great Batman Comics, Robin Dies at Dawn from 1963. Batman Year by Year, Batman 53. And our step-by-step guide. And we're going to work on the front chassis again. We're going to install a Crossmember. That's what that looks like there. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Here's the parts for 16. Let's get a closer look. EM screws, GM screws. Here's the Crossmember. It is made of metal. Matte finish. And the other part of the Crossmember, that's also made of metal. And some nice tweezers here. Very nice. Going to fit the Crossmember to this, and it doesn't really matter which way it goes. Both sides are the same on the Crossmember. We're going to line it up with this third hole, and we're going to put a GM screw into that. I put some 3-in-1 oil on the screw. Believe me, it helps you out. That oil does. There you go. Now we'll bring over the Crossmember, and that's the Crossmember chassis, and this is going to mount directly down on that, and we're going to put 2 EM screws into that. And tighten down all the way. That looks good there. And that completes stage 16. Looks great. Let's head over and do stage 17. Here's a magazine for stage 17. Once again, the TV show, True or False Face from Season 1, Episode 17. And Great Batman Comics, Gothic from 1990. Batman Year by Year, Batman 54. And of course our step-by-step guide. Phase 17 shows us working with the Batmobile suspension system, front crossmember, and the left lower suspension arm. We're going to install what we call the lower bump stop, threading the screw holes first, so you can do a pre-threading of the screws, and then installing the lower arm cross member. Here's stage 17 parts. Let's get a closer look. AM and AHM screws. We have a cross member here. That's very nice there. Made of metal. And our lower suspension arm, which is also made of metal. And our bump stop, which is made of plastic. We'll go ahead and pre-thread this, which is a great technique. It's something that you should do, make habits of doing, and then back it back out. You want to do both of those. On the lower suspension arm, they want us to install the lower bumper stop, or we call the bump stop. And that's going to go on just like that, where that sticks out on the longer side here. 2 AM screws go into that. Use a little bit of oil on this, and that looks good there. Now I'll install the lower suspension arm onto the cross member, and we're going to take the longer side and we're going to mount it right up against the cross member here. AH screw goes into that. And that's good there. Not too loose, not too tight. And that's all I do with this stage, stage 17. Let's head over and do stage 18. Let's look at stage 18. TV show, The Holy Rat Race, Season 1, Episode 18. Great Batman Comics, A Death in the Family from 1988. Batman 1955. And once again, step-by-step guide. We're going to work on the other side of the lower suspension arm. Put the bump stop on it. Install it on that cross member like we did the other one. Install the other side on the other cross member, which is the support for the engine. And then we're going to mount that to our chassis. And then we're going to mount the engine to the chassis. Looks great. Let me get the parts. I'll be right back. Here's stage 18 parts. Let's get a closer look. AM, AHM, and CM screws. Here's that cross member. It's going to support our engine. Made of metal. And our lower arm. And the other bump stop. And here's that bump stop installed. I used 2 AM screws and a little bit of 3-in-1 oil, but that's what that looks like. You want to make sure this is sticking out on the longer side of the arm. Now I'm going to go ahead and mount this to that cross member, just like we did before. And just leave it a little loose. That's good. Now we're going to go ahead and mount this to the other side here, to the other part of the cross member. And just as before, we want to get the screws started, get the thread started on these 2 ports right here. Just like that. Then you want to back it out. And we're going to go ahead and mount this now to that cross member. I'm just going to get it started and do the other side. Leave it a little loose. And leave that a little loose there too also. That's good. And that's good there. Both are installed. It's ready to go. Go ahead and install this on the front of the chassis. Bring over the front of the chassis. We're going to go ahead and mount this from underneath, and it's going to lay down on the chassis just like that. And that's how that looks there with those A-arms out of the way. We'll lay those down. We're going to put in 4 CM screws, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's tight there. That's good. And all 4 are mounted and tight. Now I'll bring over the engine. And like I said with the engine, I went ahead and just taped up the fuel lines out of the way, because these motor mounts are going to go down on these 2 mounts right here, and then the transmission is going to mount back here. And you can see there, you can see right there how the mount is up against the chassis on this side. And we are mounted on the back of the transmission right there. And the mount on this side is flush up against the chassis. AM screw goes into that. This one too. And a CM screw goes into the back where the transmission mounts. Perfect. All of the screws are in. And you can see that the engine is fully mounted now, all 3 spots. That's what it looks like. And that's all I do with stage 18. Let's head over and do stage 19. Let's look at stage 19 magazine. TV show once again, The Perfect Game, season 1, episode 19. Batman Comics, One Bullet Too Many, from 1969. Batman 56. And step-by-step guide. We're going to be fitting the covers for the front chassis and then fix the stabilizer to the model, or the anti-sway bar. There's the parts. And we're going to put these covers on the chassis. That's very nice there. I love that. Both sides. And then we're going to install the anti-sway bar for the front. Install a few screws to that. Let me get the parts. I'll be right back. Here's the parts for stage 19, or phase 19. Let's get a closer look. AM screws, KP screws, the anti-sway bar, which is plastic. Everything here is plastic. All the parts. The covers, they are marked with an R or an L. So the left side, right side, and the other parts for the anti-sway bar. And we're just going to put the covers on these, and they just simply just go down just on top. Paying attention to your left and right. AM screws will go into this. Same with the other side. There. And the front. I'll put the screws in and I will be right back. So beware that your engine does sit down below the chassis. So if you have this sitting on your workbench, you could actually be putting pressure on the bottom of the engine while you're trying to tighten down the screws on these covers. So support the chassis up away from the engine, not touching your workbench, and then screw them down. There you go. AM screws were used for those to mount those covers. 4 of them on this side. And 4 on this side. Now let's install the anti-sway bar. And the lower sway bar mount will get installed on this lower suspension arm, and that's going to go down on that and get screwed down with a KP screw. Be careful here because you're screwing into plastic, so just make it snug, not very tight so you don't strip out the screw. Put our screw in and screw it down till it's snug. It's good there. I'll do the other side and I'll be right back. And the other arm is in. Very cool. They have a little angle to them. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put the anti-sway bar on. And with the bar itself, you want it so it's angled downward, like that, and not angled up. So make sure it's facing down. And I went ahead and I secured all the fuel lines out of the way, this time on the bottom of the car. Now I'm going to take my support arms, and I'm going to move them up out of the way. I'm going to bring my arm in, and I'm going to slide it in where it needs to be. And then I can put my arms back down. And actually, you probably just want to leave your arms up while you put your brackets in right here. And those support brackets are going to go in right there. Going to put in 2 AM screws on both sides. Both supports for the arms are installed. Now we'll hook these up to the lower A arms. Just like that on the first one. And just like that on the next one. And that's how they look there and there. And that completes phase 19 or stage 19. Looks great. Let's head over and do the final stage for this video. Stage 20 or phase 20. Okay, we're almost done with this video. Stage 20 or phase 20. TV show, season 1, episode 20. Better luck next time. The comics, Bloodsport, 1982. Batman 57. And our parts. So we're going to be working on the front left side of the suspension, the front spindle, shaft, shock absorber, coil spring, lower arm ball, upper arm ball. A lot going on there. I'm going to give you a close-up of these because it's a little more intricate here. Again, a close-up of the parts. And step 1, fitting the arm balls. They tell us that the lower one is longer than the upper one, so pay attention to that. That 20G is longer. And assemble the upper suspension arm there. Fitting the shock absorber, we have a spring we need to install. You can just barely see the spring right there. Mounting it there on the bottom. Fitting the upper arm, putting some screws in on that. And lastly, AIM screw on top there. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Phase 20 parts. Let's get a closer look. Real quick here, just be aware when you're taking your parts out of the bag, you may have some screws just laying loose inside the bag and some inside the blister pack, so just be aware of that. Here's a close-up of those parts. I'll show you the screws here in a second, but these are all for the left side and they are marked with an L. Everything here is metal. Makes it very nice. Our spring. And that's what I was talking about, that one part is longer than the other. AM, AIM, CM, EM, and WM screws. Our first step is to assemble the steering arm. And this is our spindle for the steering arm. This is the left side. And we want to take our arm balls, that's what they call these. We have a longer one, and the longer one goes on the bottom here. WM screws go into that. And that's installed now. Leave it a little loose. We'll put the shorter one on top. WM screw on that. And that's in there. Like I said, just leave it a little loose. Use some oil on these. And you'll probably want to go ahead and screw it in a little bit, back it out, screw it in a little more, back it out, screw it in a little more, and back it out. You definitely don't want to break these screws off. Use oil and use that screwing in method I just talked about with these. Now we're going to assemble the upper suspension arm. We're going to go ahead and mate this to the back just like that. And we're going to put 2 CM screws into this. And off camera I did start the threads on that back part there, just like we did earlier. And it should just help it go together a lot easier. Next I'm going to mount the upper arm to this. And it's going to go on just like that. Okay, put the longer side over here, and this notch facing the bottom. And I pre-threaded my EM screws, so those are going to go in really easy. And we'll leave it loose just a little bit here. Just like that. And just like that. That's how that looks there. Next I'm going to insert the spring into this. Just like that. Put that spring in place there. And we went ahead and inserted the spring into this. We're going to take our shock mount, and that's going to feed in from the bottom. Just like that. And we're going to put our screw in on top there. AIM screw goes in on top. And I'll tighten that down here in a second. 2 screws down here on the bottom. And that's what they look like. I did use a little oil on them. Now I can tighten down the spring on the shock. And there it is. There's your suspension. Looks great. Now I'm going to continue with the left front suspension. I'm going to install the upper suspension arm right here. Now, you know I love me some Vaseline, so I want things to be lubricated up for that, kind of like grease. So I'm going to put some Vaseline in this right here. Okay. And that's going to be my grease. Now we need to turn this over. And I'm going to bring over my spindle, and the longer part that we talked about all along, that's going to insert from underneath. Just like that. An AIM screw is going to go into that. And that screw is tight there. You can see how the arm is towards the back of the car. Next, I'm going to turn this over. Now I'm going to continue with the left suspension. I'm going to install the upper suspension arm on the left side here. It's going to mount to this 2 points right here. And here's that upper arm that we assembled previously. And that's going to mount down on top of those with 2 CM screws. I did put a little oil on the screw. Get them started. And I'll tighten them down. That's good there. Now we take and line up our spindle to the upper arm. Bring that down on top. An AIM screw goes into that. I'm going to put some Vaseline on that first. There we go. And put our AIM screw into this. That's good there. Wipe off excess. And that looks good. Fantastic. Wow. And that completes stage 20, where we worked on the left front suspension. Wow. Did a lot there. Looks very nice. Really looks the part. Fantastic. I'll be right back. And there you go. That completes Pack 5 of Build the Batmobile by FanHome. Head over to FanHome and subscribe to this today. I put a direct link down below. Get it while you can before it disappears from being available. But anyway, I completed everything all the way up to phase 20 or stage 20, and that's what it looks like. Everything's mounted on the chassis here. Looks great. I'd like to thank you all for watching my videos and supporting my channel. If you like my content, please subscribe to my channel and smash that like button. Happy modeling, everybody, and take care.